Hi guys, this is my first video, so first of all, welcome to my channel. My name is Alex. I'm in my early 30s and I live in a pretty high cost of living city. I guess the point of this channel is that I recently had kind of an epiphany about the way I was spending my money and how I should maybe not be doing that. Um, this is some. I mean, I've had issues with credit card debt for a while, basically since I started. I got my first credit card in university, and um, it was because I basically needed to use it to buy some of my textbooks. But then, of course, I used it for other stuff. And then, as I got my first job and throughout my 20s, I kind of had moments where, I had like a certain amount, several thousands of debt on my credit card. But then during 2020, when I was mostly at home, I was like, okay, let me pay it all off. And I actually did achieve paying off my credit card. I think I had like two credit cards at that time, paid them off. I even eventually saved up an emergency fund that I think I got up to 10,000, which is kind of my goal. But then as travel kind of was opening back up after those years, uh, I was extremely, not just travel, but also like going out to eat and that things like that were possible again. I kind of went a little too crazy with it, to put it lightly. And I also have a student loan that when I graduated from a 4 year university, I had like 36,000 owing, and I got it down to at 11,000. But so let's just say that 11,000 plus my credit card debt and some lines of credit, it was almost uh, the amount owed altogether was like getting dangerously close to the amount of money that I make each year. Uh, I mean, I guess it was the amount that I make each year after tax, and it was getting close to the amount that I make pre-tax, which is terrifying. Um, so, uh, as I was hoping to start planning for some goals for the rest of my 30s, things I want to achieve in the next few years, and then also my retirement goals, I was doing all these calculations and I realized there is no way I'm going to be able to hit these goals. And a lot of it was to do with my various credit payments, which were all over the place, due on different days, different amounts for each thing, because it was several different forms of credit. you know, it was just a lot of money going out every month. And despite my best efforts to like save in on the side, it was just so hard to manage. And I had tried using ynab in the past, and even linking my cards, it just became so confusing because I'm in Canada, so I assume this might be the same in the States, but basically, certain banks would link really well with ynab and would update like every day, and then certain other banks would constantly get disconnected. Um, I'm actually using one that works really well with ynab. There is like a day or two delay, but I've never actually seen this until just now, so I'll have to reconnect that later. But this is pretty much accurate. So anyway, just to skip ahead, I have some short-term goals that I'm trying to hit within the next year, and I absolutely need to be tracking my income and outgoing money in the next year and beyond if I even have any hope of reaching those. And I also want to grow my investments. So, as you can see here, I'm just doing this as tracking. So I'm manually updating these every month or so. But my RRSP, which is sort of a Canadian version of like a 401k, my employer matches, I put 6% automatically. That gets deducted from my paycheck before I even see it. And then my employer matches with another 6%. So that's why that account is doing well. And I've had it for like quite a while. So um, it's nice. I wish it was whatever. I'm just gonna be proud. I'm gonna be proud of where it's at. But obviously, like my TFSA, which is Canadian equivalent of like a Roth IRA, um, is obviously super low for like how many years I've been working and earning money. So that's definitely a goal of mine to get that up. I have $94,000 worth of room I can contribute, and so like there's no. I think in the United States, if you're watching from there, I think if I'm not wrong, with a Roth, you're able to contribute like the amount for that year, and then you can catch up for last year. But that's probably it for Canada for this account. I can put like whatever the amount is, 7,000 or whatever it is for this year, and I can catch up on all of the years past. So that's why my limit is 94,000 because I have not been putting in this sort of 6 or 7,000 every year that I could have been putting in. First home savings account is a relatively new thing in Canada, and I have barely anything in there. I think for this one, the max is 40,000, but I'm only allowed to put in 8,000 a year, and then I can make up from the year before as well. So I think I could be having like $16,000 in here, but I don't. And then most importantly, something I'm probably going to talk about more in the future is this debt consolidation line. As you can see, it's not as high as what I was talking about as far as the amount of debt. And that is because I'm going through a consumer protection plan with a trustee. If you know what that is, it is something that stays on your credit report, but it's not to the extent of, it's not like bankruptcy where it stays on for like 7 to 10 years, and that's a bit more of like a serious, they're both serious, but that's more, a little more hardcore. This is consumer protection plan, at least in Canada. The trustee is, I sort of started working with them in late July, and now I'm in this 45-day holding period where they are basically dealing with all my creditors and offering them an amount that's something like 20 to 30% of what I actually owe them. And the quote that I got is that in the end, my debt will be around this amount, and I'll have 5 years to pay it off. So the monthly amount will be something like $245, if all the creditors agree, which they usually do. If they don't agree, they would just come back and ask for a tiny bit more. So I'm kind of thinking of like 15K as what I'm going to end up owing. And then I'll just have to pay about $245 a month for the next 5 years. However, I would like to pay this off within like 2 years is probably what I can accomplish. The only other thing I wanted to mention in this video, because as I think I mentioned, maybe not, I get paid tomorrow. I guess overnight tonight, so that's why there's nothing in money to be assigned and why I'm a bit over, because I just started using ynab and I've had charges landing in here, but I haven't had a paycheck really yet. So the reason that I won't be getting rid of this debt within 1 year, like as soon as possible, is because I do have some short-term savings goals. My first initial goal is I would like to get my emergency fund up to 5K. Right now it's at 3,300. In the future, I would definitely like it to be at 10,000, but I'll mention my other goals. They're the reason why I'd like to get this up to 5,000 and then move on to fill these up, because these both pertain to things happening less than a year from now, almost. Let's just say a year from now. And then once those are filled up, I would be kind of going back to this and filling this up again until it's at 10K, just to put it all simply. So until this is full, and I'm sending like 600 per paycheck there. So I'm hoping in September I can get it full around my birthday. And then once that's full, I'll be sending about 100 a month, 100 per paycheck to this goal, and 500 to this. This one is, you may, if you know, drop a purple heart in the comments if you do know what this is, but it's just a group that I will be ideally seeing on tour next year, and I'm trying to plan ahead and be responsible for the cost of the ticket and the possible cost of travel if there aren't any shows in my city. So this is a goal where I'm trying to save like 1,000, 1,500, maybe even 2,000 just to be safe. Because in the past, this is something I would have put on my credit card, and then kind of dealt with afterwards. And it is really important to me, so I'm going to do it no matter what. But to try and get better at planning ahead, I am trying to build up those savings that are specifically for that thing. Once the emergency fund is at 5,000, of course. And so that's what's happening with that. This is so something that's also really important to me is all through my 20s, I did a study abroad when I was in first year of university, which is kind of rare, I think, but my university had that option. And I did get to live in England for the school year, so like September to April. And I had never been to Europe, and I had never traveled by myself really before that. Maybe a little bit. I think I did one trip. But anyway, first extended trip by myself and to a different continent. And I was there for like 8 months. And I definitely got the travel bug. And all through my 20s, I wanted to try living and working in another country. And the country changed over the years, but the dream kind of never went away. And I kind of had been planning to do it in my late 20s, but then the events of 2020 occurred and it was not possible to travel. And I think I mentioned I was paying off credit card debt, but once I did that, I did not save as much as I should have saved. So, I saved an emergency fund, but then things went downhill again after that with my debt. So, now that I'm in my early 30s, I'm very much thinking about, what am I going to regret towards, my deathbed or whatever. If I don't get to do it, and I'm single, I don't have kids, like this is the perfect time. So I've decided that next year I am going to live abroad. I'm hoping to do a remote job so I can actually keep earning. However, I also want to be, safe and have like a cushion of money. So I'm trying to save $10,000 to $12,000. By the way, all of these are in high yield savings accounts. So it'll be around 3% interest that I'll be getting. But yeah, 10 to 12,000, which, I'm going to be, the country that I would be going to is pretty low cost of living compared to the US or Canada. My rent, ironically, would be kind of the same because I didn't go through this whole thing, but I do live with family, so I pay $770 a month, and I pay it from each paycheck, so $385 each paycheck goes to that. But the rent in the area that I'm hoping to move to next year is also going to be around 700 Canadian, so which is about 500-ish USD. So yeah, that's something that's really important to me, and I don't want to put it off forever, but I do need like for sure a year to save up. So that's my goal. So yeah, I think that's where I'll leave it for today. I do get paid tonight/tomorrow, so I'm gonna log back in definitely by Saturday, and I'm gonna do a budget with me so I can show you where everything's going, and maybe I'll go through each of these lines a little bit. But yeah, that's what I'm gonna start with today. Thanks so much for stopping by my channel, and if you are interested in using ynab, I'm going to put my referral link so you get a free month, and I get a free month if you use it, but no pressure because this is my first video, so I'm not assuming anyone will do that. Just wanted to mention it since I was looking at this. But anyway, let me know what your goals are that you're saving for. Since I talked a lot about mine, I'm just curious what yours are. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for stopping by.